This is the day that the Lakers made news yet again. They fired Frank Vogel. He was officially, as Rob Pelinka would say, factually informed of his firing this morning in his exit meeting. So, as we all know with the Los Angeles Lakers, it was a very disappointing season for this franchise. A lot of things went wrong. A lot of players didn't play. A lot of the players that did play didn't play well, at least not for long stretches. And there were injuries. So it was a pretty tumultuous season for this group. And we all seen it coming. We all seen it coming months ago. And so now the question is, what do the Lakers do from here on out? Well, I had the pleasure of listening in. I tuned in into the Zoom call for Rob Pelinka's press conference. A couple things stood out to me in his press conference. He was asked why was Frank Vogel let go, considering all the things that went wrong this season. And he basically said, all the good talk they talk and trying to compliment a guy as they exit the franchise. Said Frank Vogel, you compliment him on winning a championship and just being a stand-up human being. But he said ultimately, what they're looking for moving forward is someone who has a voice, who basically can command the respect of a LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That was one thing. And then Dave McMenamin, who I have to give props, man, he asked some really good questions in that Zoom. Dave McMenamin of ESPN, my former colleague over there, he basically asked Rob Pelinka, he said, hey, we all know, we hear why you say you let go of Frank Vogel. And then he said, one thing you mentioned was accountability. So if we're going that route on the accountability side, Frank Vogel didn't put this roster together. What do you have to say to that? And Pelinka kind of avoided the question and said this will not be the day or the platform where they're going to kind of nitpick and say who's to blame. So he kind of pivoted away from that and really didn't answer that. But he did say ultimately all decisions do rest upon him. Basketball decisions, coaching decisions, everything rests with him. He takes input from LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and others, but ultimately it's his decision.
I always find it really interesting, Chris, in one of these press conferences when GMs or whomever says, now is not the time to talk about why I just fired somebody. When's it the time to talk about it, Chris? When you hire a new coach, when you bring in your next roster of players, now is the time to talk about it. If you're not going to take accountability, why be in the spot that you in? Mm-hmm. Chris, you've talked about this before. When you talk about the construction of this roster, right? And you talked about, even if LeBron suggested this or that, you're the person in charge. You've got to take accountability for it. You also have to take accountability for the roster that you gave your coach. You also got to take accountability for the fact that if you fired your coach, you're tacitly saying someone could do a better job. But could Monty Williams do a much better job with this team? Could Ty Lue do a much better job with this team? Could any coach that's going to be on several Coach of the Year ballots do a better job with this roster? If the answer is no, the finger has to be pointed back to the people who either constructed the roster or said it's okay to construct the roster this way. Now is not the time to say we've moved on. If you're going to take accountability, it ain't just saying it. It's actually doing it and doing it publicly, because you damn sure wanted to take your victory laps when you got your third superstar and you want to tell everybody that the Lakers were back and all these other moves that a bunch of people said, hey, this ain't it.